I think that the cuts on corporation tax are missing a point because we need that money. We need that money at the moment. This is what Jeremy was talking about in Prime Minister's question today. You've given away money that actually, quite frankly, we need to spend. And it's not just about an ageing population. That is phony. I think that at the moment, cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to make.
But I'm asking...
Labour's Shadow Chancellor. Rachel Reeves crumbled under Andrew Neil's relentless questioning, revealing a staggering $25 billion national insurance increase. This bombshell contradicts Labour's core promise of no major tax hikes. As Neil peeled back the layers of Labour's economic strategy, Reeves struggled to reconcile their working-class rhetoric with policies that could hurt the very people they claim to champion. What other inconsistencies are lurking beneath Labour's polished exterior? Rachel Reeves strode into the studio, her confidence palpable. Andrew Neil, the veteran journalist known for his razor-sharp questioning, greeted her with a disarming smile.
Would you reverse it?
Hold on. Inheritance tax.
Would you reverse them?
Services and
so
home
can I
care
bring you back to
services.
my question? What would Labour do?
Well, we've already talked about, I mean, some of the taxation decisions that the government have made around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, corporation tax, where you've given away money, should be invested and putting the money in the primary care
Would you
services.
reverse the cuts on corporation tax?
As the cameras rolled, Neil opened with seemingly innocuous queries about Labour's economic vision. Reeves, well prepared, responded with polished answers about growth and fairness. But Neil wasn't going to let her off that easily. He began to dig deeper, pressing Reeves on the specifics of Labour's proposed policies. With each probing question, the tension in the studio grew. Reeves's composure started to waver as Neil zeroed in on the details she'd hoped to gloss over. Then came the bombshell. Neil revealed Labour's planned $25 billion national insurance increase, a fact that hadn't been widely publicised. Reeves, caught off guard, struggled to maintain her cool. She attempted to justify the increase, arguing it was necessary for funding public services. But her explanation rang hollow as Neil presented evidence of Labour's previous promise not to raise taxes significantly. The interview took a dramatic turn as Reeves was forced to confront the glaring contradiction between Labour's words and actions. Neil, sensing blood in the water, pressed harder. He quoted economic analysts who warned that Labour's fiscal policies could lead to reduced economic growth and a smaller economy by the end of the decade. Reeves, visibly flustered, admitted that while employers would bear the immediate cost of the national insurance rise, the financial burden would ultimately fall on workers through lower wages and fewer job opportunities. It was a damning admission, one that directly contradicted Labour's claim to be the party of the working class. As the interview reached its climax, Neil delivered a knockout blow. He presented data from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, cautioning that Labour's approach to addressing the fiscal deficit through tax increases might not be sustainable and could alienate key voter segments, particularly those already struggling economically. Reeves, her earlier confidence now shattered, struggled to reconcile Labour's economic rhetoric with the harsh realities Neil had exposed. The disconnect between the party's promises and their proposed policies was laid bare for all to see. As Neil prepared his next line of questioning, the atmosphere in the studio crackled with tension. What other inconsistencies would he uncover? And how would Reeves defend Labour's credibility in the face of such damning evidence? With Labour's economic credibility in tatters, Neil zeroed in on a betrayal so profound it threatened to unravel the very fabric of the party. He leaned forward, a glint in his eye, and asked Reeves a question that would make her wish she'd never agreed to this interview. "Let's talk about Labour's core supporters," Neil began, his tone deceptively calm. "How exactly do your policies benefit the working class?" Reeves, still reeling from the earlier revelations, attempted to regain her footing. She spoke of job creation and economic growth, but her words rang hollow in the face of Neil's next salvo. "According to our research, the national insurance increase you're proposing could cost a minimum wage employee an extra $800 per year. Neil stated, his voice cutting through Reeves's rhetoric. How do you justify this burden on the very people you claim to champion? Reeves faltered, her earlier confidence now a distant memory. She mumbled about necessary sacrifices for the greater good. But Neil was far from finished. And what about pensioners? He pressed, his eyes narrowing. Your party has decided to cut winter fuel payments. How does that align with Labour's promise to protect the vulnerable? The studio fell silent as Reeves struggled to form a coherent response. She spoke of difficult decisions and budget constraints, but her words seemed to evaporate in the harsh light of Neil's scrutiny. Neil then delivered another blow, presenting testimonies from working-class voters. Their words painted a damning picture of a party that had lost its way, abandoning its foundational principles in pursuit of power. We feel betrayed, one testimony read. Labour used to stand for us, but now it seems they're no different from the Tories. Reeves's face paled as she listened to the raw emotions in these accounts. She attempted to defend Labour's recent policy shifts, but her explanations sounded weak and unconvincing. As the interview reached its climax, it became painfully clear that Reeves, and by extension Labour, had no satisfactory explanation for their apparent abandonment of core principles. The disconnect between the party's rhetoric and its actions was laid bare for all to see. Neil, sensing victory, prepared to deliver his final, devastating question. The atmosphere in the studio crackled with tension as viewers held their breath, wondering how much more damage Labour's credibility could sustain. What other inconsistencies would Neil uncover? And how would Reeves possibly defend her party's position in the face of such damning evidence? As the interview reached its climax, Andrew Neil delivered his final, devastating question. Ms. Reeves, given the contradictions we've uncovered today, how can voters trust Labour to manage the economy when your words and actions are so clearly at odds? Reeves, visibly shaken, attempted one last defense. We've had to make difficult decisions, but our core values remain unchanged, she insisted, her voice lacking conviction. Labour is still the party of working people, but the damage was done. As the cameras stopped rolling, viewers were left to ponder the future of Labour and British politics as a whole. The interview had exposed deep fissures within the party and raised serious questions about its ability to govern effectively. Experts predict this credibility crisis could have long-lasting consequences for Labour's electoral prospects. With voter sentiment already turning negative, particularly in light of recent policy U-turns, the party faces an uphill battle to regain trust. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. Labour's path forward is fraught with challenges, and the political landscape may never be the same.